Hey church, Nick here for Morning Devotions. Going to be beginning our study in the book of Numbers and looking at the first couple of chapters. Have you noticed right now, like it feels we have less and less margin to be people of indecision? You know, the book of Numbers is a cautionary tale about people who are stuck in the middle, who are indecisive, who are fickle. The book Numbers, as we call it, wasn't actually called that originally. In the Hebrew Bible, it was called Bemidbar, which means in the wilderness or in the desert, because it's an account of Israel's journeying. A journey from Sinai to the Promised Land, which should have taken a couple or a few weeks at most, takes them 38 years and 10 months. And within that time, they go from doing things well for a little while to rebelling and grumbling against God, and then bearing the consequences of the grumbling, and then Moses intercedes and prays for them, and then they repent and come back out. But they go through the cycle again and again and again. A theologian called Poythress says that this is really strongly symbolic of the Christian life now. We are called to enter into the land, as Israel was, to battle the giants in the land. What are the giants in our own day? They seem everywhere to me. Alienation from God and his kindness, idolatry, systemic oppression, racism, injustice, enmity, strife. They seem so big, so insurmountable, they should scare us spitless, but for the fact that we can remember that God is with us and God is calling us in. Our battle, of course, is never against humans. It's not against flesh and blood. Our battle is against the rulers and the authorities and the powers of this dark world and the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. And so we're called to put on the full armor of God. The Israelites begin well in Numbers. In chapter 1, they do an inventory of all the fighting men in their nation. And we are called to do that similarly. We're called to think, what is all the good things that we have to hand? In our own lives, in the life of our church, in the life of our nation, what are the good things that we're starting with? And then in the second chapter, they're called to set up their camp, to clean their house, to set it right, to center it on God. The tabernacling of God, which was God in their midst, is right in the middle, and they're to be encamped around him. And so it is with us. Everything in our lives is to be centered on him. And up until chapter 11, the point at which they start grumbling, it's all good stuff going on in Numbers. They're hearing the law, they're being obedient to God, they're looking to him, they're looking to be obedient. But then, of course, they become unrepentant and they don't do what he says, they don't enter the land. And because of that, for 40 years, a lifetime, they're stuck wandering around the wilderness. When the Apostle Paul writes about this in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, he says, this is a warning to us. What appears in the book of Numbers is a warning to us. It's a cautionary tale of how not to be. And he goes on and he says, if you think you're standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. He says, no temptation to cowardice or inaction or discouragement has seized you except what is common to all humankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted by these things beyond what you can bear. Then he says, but when you are tempted, not if, but when you are tempted, God will provide a way out so that you can come out from under it. Friends, we are called to a life of extraordinary engagement. We're called to lives where we engage with the problems of this world. It's our choice if we choose to wander around the desert or if we choose to enter in. So today, let's be people. Though it's messy, though it's scary, let's be people who enter in to all the things that God has for us to do. Be blessed.